Welcome to Between Product and Partnerships, a podcast focused on bringing together product, partnership, and engineering leaders to discuss how to build, support, and scale SaaS ecosystems. Presented by the SaaS Ecosystem Alliance and sponsored by Pandium, an integration platform and marketplace for ecosystems. Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening in. For those of you that are new to our podcast, I'm Liz Garcia. I'm one of the community managers of the SaaS Ecosystem Alliance, and I'm also on the marketing team at Pandium. Today, I'm speaking with Sonal Uban, who is the Director of Marketing focused on global technology alliances at Fortinet, which is one of the largest cybersecurity ecosystems in the industry. So thank you, Sonal, for being on this podcast with us. Could you give our audience just a brief overview of who you are and what you do at Fortinet?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me over. It's great to be in conversation with you, Liz. So I would love to share my insights with the audience here. Before I do that, I am as you said, the Director of Marketing at Fortinet. And my role really is to engage, relationship build with strategic partners, scale out the program in terms of marketing. So there's, co-marketing with non-strategic partners, with strategic partners, and then there's very, very strategic partners. Scale them effectively to impact sales and just define the go-to-market for each partner that is meaningful for them in driving business together.
Great. So before we actually get into some more technical advice, I'd love to hear about your transition into your current role. I know you've gone from being a partner marketing manager to the director of marketing for technology alliances at a very large company. So what was that transition like, and what skills did you bring with you that you felt best prepared you for your current role, and what were some learning curves that you experienced too?
It's a very interesting question. So I actually started my career at startups. And so I got to experience a lot of the roles hands-on. In startup, you're a lean team. You can just walk over to the product team, the product marketing team, walk over to your CMO sometimes, and just engage with them, take decisions really quickly. And then I transitioned into a much larger company, which is still lean and mean and very fast working, but you still now have to be mindful of the organizational hierarchy. And you have to factor in timelines and lead times when you have to make a decision. So I've been on both sides of the fence, and I've enjoyed them thoroughly. Question on what was the transition like? It was a very interesting transition, but I have to confess it wasn't very difficult for me, because when you talk about alliances on both sides, or partner marketing, or even marketing in general, what are some of the most important skill sets? And I'm sure everybody would agree with me, they are the soft skills. Communication. For me, I think that was the number one reason why I was able to transition, A, and I was able to transition successfully, B. So when it comes to communication, maybe I should take a step back. What is really alliances? Alliances is the coming together of two organizations. But in the end, it is the people that are involved and the personal relationships and the business relationships that you develop with them that help make partnership a success. So any alliance marketing person or an alliance manager, has to be very good at people skills and business skills and relationship skills. So these are the three things that you're really bringing with you in any role that has something to do with alliances. And then go to market with alliance partners is very critical, because you can get to touch markets and audiences and personas that you may not already be touching, but your business interests are aligned to those. So when it comes to communication, the soft skills that you're bringing into your role really are of two types. You have to be very good diplomat, because you have to bring and align the interests of two parties together. And so you need to get the buy-in of all the skills involved, not just within the organization, but also outside your organization. So you have to be a very, very good diplomat. And that means you have to be a good talker. You have to be a good communicator. And the second piece of that communication is you have to be a very good analyst. And what I mean by that is really be a good listener. You have to hear your partners and hear what's happening within your organizations to start connecting the dots and make it easy for both parties to align their interests. So I think those soft skills come handy in any role, but especially in alliances in general. And then there's a piece of you acting as a business manager, where you're bringing your financial acumen, your business insights, even to some degree your sales insight and your negotiation skills. Negotiation plays a very important role in any alliances position, including alliances marketing, because you're constantly trying to get more or give less. So there's always a party that wants more, and there's always a party that's trying to make it happen within their means. So there's a lot of negotiation skills. And then of course, you have to be a fast thinker and think out of the box when you're talking about marketing campaigns, right? Always bring your innovative hat on. So those are the skill sets I would say that helped me transition into this role very successfully.
No, thank you for that detailed answer. I've definitely heard a lot about the soft skill of being able to manage those relationships, but it was really interesting your point about being an analyst. I haven't really heard anyone speak about the role in that way, so that was really interesting. You also mentioned something about being in a larger organization, having to, I guess, be more mindful of like the org and where you're positioned within the organization and how you communicate with others based on that. So I did want to ask where you currently sit, who you report under, what org you report under in your role, and what that collaboration with tech partnerships and product looks like. For example, when deciding on a new technology partnership to focus on, what role does everyone play in that? And are you seen as more of a reporting team to partnerships, or is it more of a collaborative effort where everyone's kind of on the same playing field?
That's a great question. Typically, alliances in most organizations sits under sales. But very interestingly, at Fortinet, where I'm currently employed, we sit under the CMO. So we sit under the marketing organization. Now, that's a very interesting strategy, if I may, more almost like a strategy, because at Fortinet, they've realized that alliances and alliances marketing is really a facilitating role. You're facilitating something to enable that sales to grow. You're really trying to bring in the internal stakeholders and the external stakeholders together. So you are product owners in your own right. And the product we own is called the open ecosystem, which is nothing but a community of partners involved, right? So you're owning that product from a development standpoint, as well as from a marketing standpoint within the firm. And you now become the facilitator, the owners, to bring the technical stakeholders together and the marketing stakeholders together and the business stakeholders together to take that partnership to new heights for the success metrics of both companies. Now, so as any given alliances, when we are talking or when you're embarking on a new partnership, how do you really assess whether that partnership makes sense? Is it even is it even worthy to take? Because we have so many different companies that we're talking to. How do you assess? And on that point, I think the team, rather, I would have to say, the first team you have to get the buy-in from are the product owners, are the technical stakeholders, because they are the ones that help you define the first piece of any alliance framework, which is your solution even compatible? And if it is compatible, how do we bring those two together in a way that benefits our mutual customers? What technologies do we use? What use cases can be defined if it is successfully able to come together? And then once you establish the scope of being able to work together with the product team, once they validate it and they bless it and they say, yes, this makes sense from what we're seeing in our customers' infrastructure, then you start to define other milestones, the marketing piece of it, the awareness that you have to bring to your customers, the business side of it, the sales side of it. But those are all just follow on. So I think any product owners, any technical stakeholders, the architects, the solution architects, or the solution engineers, or the developers usually are the first teams that you engage with, the first stakeholders that you have to get your buy-in from. And it's important because on an average these days, the customers own anywhere from 30 plus multi-vendor solutions. The customers want to buy the best in their own areas of need or requirements. So it's even more critical. Now, partnerships used to be a nice to have at one point in time. Now it's become a must have. So we have to define how the companies are coming together, how they're bringing the solutions together. And to help us do that is the product team. So we do work very, very closely with the product team at par. Once they decide and validate the solution, then we take it to market. So we are on equal footing, but the first piece of that footing starts with the technical team.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to ask you about what makes a tech partner great, or a framework that you would use to determine who to partner and market with. But you spoke a little bit to how the product team really does like the defining of who that is, right? I guess my question is like, is the marketing team or is your team also involved in that framework, or making those decisions as well?
Yeah, so what you're asking is, how do we define a great partner or a great company to partner with? How do we even decide to partner with those companies, right?
Yeah.
And what the framework really is that we're putting in place. Yes. So the first piece of it is something I covered previously, which is what is that company bringing for Fortinet? Let's say I'm analyzing this from Fortinet's perspective. The first thing I realized, or I had to realize, is what is the product that the company is offering? What is the innovation? And so what I'm looking for is their solution compatible with my solution? If we did decide to partner, how quickly can they scale the integration? Are they able to bring the integration to a level that would be very beneficial for my customer, or for our mutual customers, our common customers? And that piece of it is defined by the technical teams, as I defined earlier. But there are other frameworks, there are other things that we factor in. The second piece of it is the culture, the business compatibility. Are we aligned in our, are you and I seeking the same things out of this solution? It may differ, but it still has to be complementary. You should stand something to gain, and I should stand something to gain. So really, are we defined? Do we know what our interest is? Are we aligned there? Then if we are, that makes for a good partner. The third piece of it that is very important for us is the market and category leadership of that particular company. We are leaders in what we do. If Fortinet is a leader in what they're bringing to the table, then we obviously to pay a little extra emphasis on whether our partner is also a category leader. Do they have the industry recognition? If we were to walk into a customer's meeting tomorrow and talk about that partner, do they recognize that partner? It makes a big difference, right? Do they enjoy market penetration? Maybe there are markets that we want to penetrate, and our partners can help us do that. Are they marketing in the same areas? or are they marketing in complementary areas? Are they catering to the same audience, the same persona? Again, it doesn't always have to be the same, but it has to be complementary. Each should stand to gain something from the other, right? So that's the third piece of it. And the fourth and the most important, in my opinion, is the collaborativeness. How willing or how committed is the partner to our relationship? You don't want to be always the only ones committed to the partnership. Sometimes with very big partners, the scale can tilt. You feel like you're putting in all the effort and you're not really getting the same recognition back or the commitment back from very big partners, from very large partners. So it's important. Sometimes it's okay, but in most partnerships, I think it's important to be on equal footing, have the same commitment on both sides. So both parties have to be able to collaborate and go to market and be, put their best into that partnership.
Yeah, and you actually touched on this a little bit, but I did want to get your perspective from someone who would be the bigger fish in the relationship. Tips that you would provide to smaller companies who wanted to get marketing resources from large partners like yourself. I know you mentioned some of the things that you're specifically looking for in your partners. Is there anything different that you would recommend to smaller partners who are trying to get the attention of larger companies? Anything you'd recommend that would be compelling to you specifically?
Yeah. On both sides, I understand where some of the smaller companies are coming from, and I understand where some of the bigger companies are coming from now. But for the perspective of a smaller company, or rather from the perspective of a bigger company, advice to smaller companies is that don't rush into the partnership. Take your time, be a good listener, understand the framework that matters to the bigger company. Every company has their own framework. Most of the bigger companies are very KPI driven, very goals driven, and it's important for the smaller companies to understand what those goals might be. And when you embark on a new partnership, don't be impatient about getting the most out of the big company. Take your time to prove your worth, to prove your mettle to the company. Show them what you've got. And then start to build that relationship and become hungry at an appropriate time. I find some of the, I don't know, one of the biggest mistakes, or what I find some of the smaller companies when they come to us, we walk them through the framework, and as soon as we complete a solution brief, the next question they ask sometimes is, can we do a webinar together? And I always have to respond and say, of course, in due time. Is somebody asking for it? Are my salespeople looking for the solution? We haven't done the legwork of creating awareness yet internally before going to an external audience. And not that it can't be done in parallel. Yes, it can be done. But if I had 325 partners, I had to prioritize the partners based on, the strategic side of things. Some of them are bringing more revenue than you. I have to bring them up in the line. So yes, we can do the webinar. Rather, I would recommend smaller companies to take the lead in driving those webinars. Instead of do a joint webinar, maybe say, I'd like to do a webinar on the joint solution that we've just completed. Can you provide me a speaker? We will take the onus of driving the attendance, but maybe you can help us promote it in some way. When you position it like that, it becomes a lot easier for the bigger companies to comply with, as opposed to going full on with a joint campaign. That becomes a little harder to justify. So that's my recommendation to smaller companies. Understand the frameworks, understand the challenges of the bigger companies, and play smartly with them. in the initial years of your partnership, I urge you to take the ownership, be the driver of that partnership, and slowly and steadily build that relationship to a point where it becomes meaningful for you to ask for more resources from that bigger partner. And you will get to a point, I promise you, but give it time. That would be my advice.
No, yeah, I think that's great advice. And I wanted to ask something based on something that you mentioned. You mentioned, it's not a good idea to do all this external marketing work when there hasn't been like education about the solution internally yet. And I'm guessing like that's something that you really prioritize before you go to market with partners. Can you speak a little bit to some of the ways in which you work to enable or educate internally before doing those more external practices like webinars, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the challenges, Liz, in bigger companies is to get the mind share of everybody, right? It's hard. And especially when you are one of the largest cybersecurity ecosystems in this industry, it becomes especially hard. Like partners, and how often do you present the partners to your salespeople? Because at the end of the day, remember what I said, we are facilitators. We need the team to pick up on it and to sell it and to take it to the customers, right? And they absolutely will. But there's so much in their mind. They have to learn their own technologies. And on top of that, you're asking them to be aware of the partner's technology and to be able to speak that intelligently. So I think the first piece, what's very dear to me is awareness. Awareness is very important. And you can do a lot of things to build awareness. Tactically, there's a lot of avenue. For example, at Fortinet, we have newsletters that we use to reach out to our sales team. We do webinars internally where we invite partners to speak. We also do, maybe there's an industry event and we find that a particular partner adds a lot of metal to or is a very complementary partner to our solution. We would invite them to industry partners to speak in our booth. That gets the attention of the sales force too. And we start to sit up and take notice. So tactically, there's a lot of different things and tools that you can use, but I would urge companies to focus on building awareness as a step one internally within their own teams. Use whatever tactics you have, whatever avenues you have, but get the word out on partnerships internally before you start to talk about it externally. Because the next what you need or you don't want to happen is your customers are approaching you, but your sales force has no idea what they're talking about. So it starts with building awareness internally, then externally. And then you start to build on that awareness. You start to develop tactics for demand gen with your partners. Then once you start to bring in the leads, you focus on the right quality of leads, and then you start to focus on the conversion rate. And then you start to measure that by putting a ribbon on everything you've done around that partnership by measuring the lifetime value. So it's not just about the number of leads, it's about the quality of leads. And then as you start to track those leads, you start to put a value to that lifetime value of that partnership based on the opportunity that lead is developing into. So awareness, demand gen, conversion, and lifetime value. This is the way you progress a partnership, at least for me. I'm sure different companies have different approaches, but this is something that has worked successfully at Fortinet, and I urge other companies to stress equally on demand gen and awareness. A lot of companies I've seen, they jump into demand gen without building awareness internally, and I think that's remiss of them.
No, I think that's some really great insight, and you actually jumped into what I wanted to get your input on next, which is just around the partner marketing or the alliance marketing KPIs from your perspective. I know you spoke to some of those, but are there any others that you could share for specifically that you work towards?
Yeah, now since I already touched upon the bigger picture, so I'll start with some tactical. Um, it really depends on the avenue you're using. So awareness, what we do is we use newsletters, we use articles, blog posts, and bite-sized videos to start to get the message out internally and maybe externally as well. And over here, I generally track unique visitors, page views, traffic sources, and visits per channel. These are some of the metrics that I assign and I look for. Are people clicking on my link? Are people listening to it? How long are they staying on that video, on that page, and things like that? Are they engaging with my blog post? Are they asking me questions? These are some of the things we have to start to watch out for. Because if they are, the more the engagement, the more interesting that partnership is, or the solution is from a partnership perspective. So that's important. As we start to progress the partnership and we start to take the messaging externally, now we get into the area of demand gen. And for demand gen now, from an alliance marketing perspective, it's very important to keep in mind your budget. So what is the cost per lead? If you're bringing a partner into the fold or you're engaging in co-marketing with a partner, what is the cost per lead that you're paying? The number of leads. Did co-marketing with that partner help you bring more leads in? Maybe they helped you bring fewer leads in, but the quality of the lead was phenomenal. So you start to watch out for those kind of metrics. And then, of course, the conversion rate. How many of those leads are actually converting into meetings and opportunities? And as you start to do that, you start to now put a value to that partnership. If there are closed deals, how much revenue or in what opportunities did those partners act as an influencer? Which means that if, that could be one of many scenarios. If there's an opportunity you're engaged with and those customers already own your partner's product, then that integration and that partnership starts to act as an influential aspect of the sales opportunity. Maybe the customers owned only one product of the co-partners, and now because of your messaging are engaged and evaluating the other partner. Maybe a division that you were not engaged with before is now sitting up and taking note of you because you got that, co-marketing message out, the go-to-market, the joint messaging out. So these are some of the metrics you have to watch out for. Like, how influential are your partners? How many opportunities are they impacting? How many leads are they bringing in? And with that, you start to put a dollar value behind that partnership, which we attribute or which we call a lifetime value. So that's the value of the partner generated lead over time to my business. And I think that's an important metric to watch out for.
Yeah, and I haven't actually heard anyone, we've done a couple panels on this, and I actually haven't heard many people mention that aspect. But I'd also like to hear about like some of the tactical ways that you track, or some of the ways that you track influence and attribution to leads, especially at such a large company. And maybe if you have some perspective, I know you mentioned you first started at a startup, if just like how that can scale from a smaller company to a larger company.
Yeah, I mean, I've been at startups where we've done the attribution on an Excel sheet, and I think everyone starts there. Let's be honest, we all Excel sheet, and I did too. Even at Fortinet, ago, and then as you scale, you realize you have to have a better process and you have to make it more systematic and streamlined. So over the years, I've experimented with many different processes, but two of them work really well for me. So I'm going to talk about those two. One is a Salesforce attribution, or whatever CRM you're using. Any company, you might be using SFDC, or you might be using any other CRM. When you develop, or when you are engaged with a partner in a joint campaign, it's important to create a campaign ID within Salesforce and tag or attribute that campaign to all the partners involved with that campaign. So what happens then is as you upload your leads and as you start to track the progress of those leads over time, you start to now track the progress of your partnership. If a co-marketing campaign or a joint campaign with partner A that I did in 2020 has resulted in a closed opportunity in 2021 or 2022, with the help of that tagging or tracking in SFD, I can attribute it to the source, to the actual source. Now I know that that partnership matters to this degree, to this value that the deal closed for, right? So that's one thing. The other piece of it is we use a tool called WorkSpan. And that also has, it's an ecosystem management tool. And over the years, we've just started using it last year. But what it does is, through the SFDC integration, it allows me to pull a subset of the leads that closed or that originated or that came through a joint campaign attributed to a particular partner. So I can track the success of that partner now, as opposed to the lead. I'm taking another view. So in SFDC, I'm tracking that lead. But in WorkSpan now, I can track this partnership in terms of the revenue, the deals that are the MQL, some leads that you're just engaged with and talking to, some more opportunities that helped, that partnership helped open up for us. So you can now take a partnership view using that tool. And it allows you to register deals if you need to, incentivize your customers to come into the tool and register some deals, take assistance from Fortinet. All of those things over time helps to bring the companies together, helps to establish a closer working relationship, and follow the progress of the leads over time with the correct value or the lifetime value that I spoke about, through the right attribution. Sometimes with Excel, that doesn't really happen. But if you have tools that are helping you track that, I think that's very critical.
No, thank you for sharing those two tools. I'd also want to shift gears a little bit and talk to some of the partner marketing tactics that you have found particular success with partners. Are there any techniques that you've seen maybe be underutilized or that you've seen a lot of success with in your role that could offer SaaS companies big gains, or unique examples?
I think that's a great question, Liz, because it might be an obvious answer maybe, but I really think co-marketing and affiliate marketing are underutilized. I think oftentimes companies end up focusing too much on their own marketing, their own corporate marketing, which is very important, of course. But I think that corporates have to open up an avenue for the partners to plug in as well. So, in my opinion, both co-marketing and affiliate marketing have a lot more scope to be adopted. Very simple things like joint white papers or networking events that are designed as a peer-to-peer event in the industry. These are things that customers find very powerful. Every customer, we all know what is top of mind for the customers, the pain points. We know that. So we have to find ways to partner with companies or establish or come together with your partners to reach out to those customers using a joint white paper or a webinar or a podcast. That's called co-marketing. Get the shared voices together. And instead of addressing one pain point in each of those avenues, bring the shared voices together that can give a customer a more holistic view for addressing their pain points. That's very important. that in a corporate marketing from a company that sometimes addresses, each asset might address only one pain point or maybe several pain points, but with one solution. And what I'm saying is think bigger, think ecosystem, think alliances, do more, bring more voices so that when you customer, they're hearing multiple solutions or they're hearing complementary solutions for that pain point. And that's you're taking that, you're taking the legwork away from the customer. So that's very important. And then what is affiliate marketing? Affiliate marketing is basically, where affiliate marketing partnerships really are where you're incentivizing another business to independently drive traffic or conversions to a tracking URL. I think from a bigger company perspective, I think you should create more assets, take a more tactical approach, and then hand it over to your partners, your strategic partners, so that they can co-brand it and start to drive audiences to that asset. And them with more assets and more things so that even if they're a smaller team, if they're a smaller company, they don't have to spend a lot of money to co-market with you. So that's affiliate marketing. Give them a tracking URL, develop a page with them, help them drive traffic, let them drive their own customers there, but you enable them to do that. And I think we all, as a bigger company, we have to step up. If there are companies that have the resources and the means, I think we should step up to doing that. So one is where you're meeting an equal partner and you're going together after a customer. And another one is where you develop an asset or develop something, a page that speaks to the partnership, co-brand it, and then just arm your partners with those pages and assets and let them do the legwork in driving traffic to those pages. But you give them the support they need in developing the messaging, and that has worked really well for me. I mean, I just wrapped up a campaign, a joint campaign with a partner where we had developed a white paper. We put it out there through the co-marketing engines. We took the help of a third-party content marketing company. Basically, it's called Tech Target. It's pretty well known in the industry. And because it was such a concerted effort, where we were very focused on the message that we were trying to get out using that white paper, we were able to take an ABM approach. And it was fantastic. We got 300 of the white space accounts that we wanted to target. We were able to reach out to them. It wasn't something that I could have done alone. It was because there was a shared message, a shared voice in that paper. We were able to bring the best of two companies together and take it to a company that both of us are struggling to reach out with. So we used a joint effort. So it was very successful. I mean, we were able to reach out to white space accounts that each of us alone was not able to reach out to. So I urge companies to co-market more and to develop more affiliate marketing. That I think is a little underutilized even today.
Yeah, definitely agree. I feel like ecosystem marketing is a really powerful thing. But yeah, actually, I've never really heard of that perspective for the affiliate marketing. I think that's really great tactical advice, and also seems like a really great way to scale your partner marketing efforts with not as much of a lift. Yeah, with not as much of a lift going in. So that was really interesting. Well, that was the last of my questions. So now, thank you so much for connecting with me and offering your expertise to our audience. Is there anywhere where our audience can connect with you on LinkedIn, etc.?
I would love to engage with people. Absolutely. My LinkedIn page is live, it's active. You can connect me. You can search for me with my name, Sonal Uban, and I'm happy to connect with anyone that wants my perspective or help or just wants to chat up over coffee with me. And thank you for having me. It was great. It was a great conversation.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. If you're someone who is working on building and scaling SaaS product partnerships, we invite you to apply to be a member of our community at saasecosystemalliance.com.